Hello everybody and welcome to the TripletsIndieBlog.com. I'm Thad Van Devender, and today I wanted to take a look before the college football playoff rankings come out, just how things are going to shake out and what happened last week to see where we're going to be in the future with all the rankings and all the jumbling that's going on. Let's take a look first at what happened last week, what we learned from the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. Number one, name brands count and conferences count. We saw Alabama and Notre Dame up at the top, even with one loss, ahead of some teams with no losses at the time, Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma State. So I think that does play a factor. People don't want it to be. I don't want it to be, but it does play a factor in how the selection committee is going to place some teams in their rankings, and we'll see how it plays out through the final weeks of the regular season. Couple of big things happened this week. 4 huge games that really kind of jumbled everything up, and it's going to make it interesting the final couple weeks of the season. Number one, Alabama handles LSU at home in Tuscaloosa. So the Tide already in the top 5. They'll be pushing up into the top 4. Oklahoma State really handled TCU at home. Big win for the Pokes there in Stillwater. TCU, I think that was tough for the committee to kind of place them anyway. I think they're going to drop down pretty far, and they're going to have a lot of ground to make up. They have some big games down the stretch as well, the Big 12 teams, but Oklahoma State right now can really make a push. Nebraska beats Michigan State on a terrible call at the end. Nebraska had already lost 4 games on the final play of a game this season. They get one back against Michigan State. Tough loss for Michigan State. I don't know if they'll have enough to get back into contention for the top 4, but they do still have Ohio State. And then possibly, if they can beat Ohio State, they could get to the Big Ten championship game against an undefeated Iowa. The Spartans maybe still have a shot to sneak in the back door, but they're going to need some help. The other big win, Navy over Memphis at Memphis, big for the Midshipmen. Not only a huge win, but they're now 7-1. They should easily be in the top 25 when the rankings come out on Tuesday night. And also, I'm going to start this push right now that quarterback Keenan Reynolds for Navy should be in attendance in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. He's had an unbelievable career at Navy. I don't think he should win, nor do I think he will win, obviously, but I think he needs to be in attendance if we're going to make the Heisman Trophy matter to people again, and it's not just people from the luxurious conferences or the name schools. I think Keenan Reynolds needs to be in that mix. And Navy, 7-1, only loss on the season to Notre Dame, who we know is a top 4 college football playoff contender right now. Looking ahead, a couple teams that are on the bubble right now, interesting one-loss type of teams. Notre Dame, Stanford, Iowa unbeaten, but kind of still on that bubble. Florida, Utah, Oklahoma, all of these teams still have huge games down the stretch. If they get a little bit of help, they can maybe sneak into that top 4. Notre Dame and Stanford, the final week of the regular season, could be huge. Utah, they were in the top 4 early on. They could maybe sneak in as well with that Pac-12 championship game coming at the end of the season if they can run the table in conference play. I'm going to give you my top 4 now, starting with number 4. Alabama's in the top 4 again. The Roll Tide, big win over LSU. Nick Saban's coaching them up. Got a big game this week coming up at Mississippi State. Cowbells will be ringing, so we'll see if the Tide can keep things going. Number 3, Ohio State. They didn't have JT Barrett last week. Cardell Jones struggled still at quarterback, but they got to win. The offense just moves better when Barrett's in there. I think Ohio State's going to get it together. Couple big games down the stretch for them. Michigan State and Michigan, and a possibility of playing Iowa, an undefeated Iowa, in the Big Ten championship game. Clemson at number 2. Dabo Swinney and the boys keep winning. Two biggest wins of the season, though, at home. I'd like to see them get a win on the road in a big, hostile environment. Not sure if they're going to get that in the ACC this year. And finally, my number 1 team, the Baylor Bears. Art Briles has his team all over the place. They score a ton of points, even with true freshman quarterback Jarrett Stidham stepping in. All he did was throw for over 400 yards, rush for a touchdown as they won at Kansas State on Thursday night. I like Baylor. I've liked Baylor all year. I know most people will probably have Clemson number 1, but they give Baylor a hard time for the schedule that they've played. I don't think their schedule is any weaker than what Ohio State's played, so I'm going to give Baylor the credit, and they have all their big games coming at the end of the season. They still have Oklahoma, which is this week, Oklahoma State, TCU, and then they close out with Texas on Thanksgiving weekend. Huge month of November for the Baylor Bears. We'll see if they can get it done, and we'll check out the college football rankings later on Tuesday night, and we'll see how I did. Thanks, and join us again soon.